My husband was diagnosed with azoospermia, so we had to buy sperm. After the baby was born, he regretted it. He cursed the baby as a bastard and even beat me up while I was in confinement. My mother-in-law urged him to raise his brother's son. I proposed divorce. In order not to divide the property, they pushed me downstairs together and faked the appearance of my depression-driven suicide. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day when Shen Wenbin was diagnosed with azoospermia. In the consulting room, the doctor calmly stated the fact that my husband Shen Wenbin was diagnosed with azoospermia, as if he were talking about a boar being unable to breed. Shen Wenbin beside me listened in silence, and his mood was fairly stable. But in my heart, there were huge waves. After being pushed downstairs by Shen Wenbin and his mother, I was actually reborn on the day when Shen Wenbin was diagnosed with azoospermia. Although the severe pain from the high-altitude fall had completely disappeared, I still had a lingering fear. The fear of dying and the endless hatred made me breathe rapidly. The hand that was propping on the table couldn't stop trembling. The doctor mistook me for being too excited about the test result and sighed softly, "If you want a baby, you can choose the sperm from the sperm bank." In my previous life, after careful consideration, Shen Wenbin and I chose to have a baby with purchased sperm. Knowing that it was his physical problem, Shen Wenbin had always felt guilty towards me. After I got pregnant, he was extremely attentive. He cooked nutritious meals for me, never let me do housework, and took time off to accompany me for every prenatal check-up. I gave birth to a son, Chow Chow, and he took care of me and the baby every step of the way. At that time, I really thought he was an excellent father and husband. Our family of 3 would live happily like all normal families. My mother wanted to come to take care of me during my confinement. Considering that my father had just had cataract surgery and Shen Wenbin had already taken good care of me and the baby, I didn't let her come. Knowing that I had given birth to a boy, Shen Wenbin's mother, Shen Suilian, was extremely happy and volunteered to come from her rural hometown to take care of me. The moment she saw the baby, the smile on her face disappeared completely, and her expression became strange. She asked Shen Wenbin, "You and Zhao Tong are both single-eyelid. How come the baby is double-eyelid?" We didn't tell our family members and friends on both sides about Shen Wenbin's azoospermia. First, we wanted to protect his self-esteem and didn't want him to be pointed at by others. Second, we didn't want the baby's growth to be affected. Shen Wenbin fobbed off his mother with recessive genes. Shen Suilian was half believing and half doubting. She frequently found places where the baby didn't look like Shen Wenbin and was convinced that I had cheated on him. My friends came to visit me at home together. Among them, there was a male friend who happened to have big double eyelids. Shen Suilian was sure that he was my lover and insisted that Shen Wenbin and the baby have a paternity test. We were extremely annoyed and had no choice but to tell her about Shen Wenbin's azoospermia and the fact that we had a baby with purchased sperm. To our surprise, Shen Suilian was even more excited and cursed the baby as a bastard. She cried and made a fuss, scolding Shen Wenbin for being stupid all the time. "Are you going to raise someone else's son? What if the little bastard grows up, finds out that he's not your biological son, and goes to find his real father?" "Mom, stop it!" Shen Wenbin hissed at his mother in a low voice. His tightly furrowed brows and pained eyes still revealed his inner entanglement. After this day, Benjamin changed. Before, when the baby cried, he would gently pick up the baby and stroke it to comfort. Now, he subconsciously patted the baby hard and scolded the less than 1-month-old infant, "Be quiet, shut up." He even threw the baby directly onto the bed and left it alone. I often stayed up late to breastfeed, and my sleep was severely insufficient. One night, the baby cried again. I asked Benjamin to change the baby's diaper. He grabbed the quilt and covered his head, saying the same thing as his mother, "It's your own bastard, take care of it yourself." Tiredness, grievance, and anger completely welled up in my heart. During the lactation period, my emotions were already fragile. The more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I felt. I choked and questioned, "What do you mean now?" Having a baby with purchased sperm was a decision we made together. "Why are you treating me and the baby like this?" Benjamin suddenly sat up, scratched his hair irritably, and after a while, he said, "Tina, why don't we give the baby away to others? My mother said to adopt my eldest brother's son to us. Although Shin Kong is 6 years old, he has the blood of our Shin family. I believe that as long as we do our best to raise him, when he grows up, he will surely treat us as his biological parents and support us in our old age." I looked at Benjamin in disbelief. I originally thought that he was a postgraduate graduate and his thoughts were different from those of his traditional mother. Unexpectedly, he completely agreed with his mother's point of view and wanted me to send the baby away. Of course, I disagreed. Rather than raising a bastard for an outsider, you don't want to raise a baby for our Shin family. "Tina, what are you up to?" Lillian suddenly pushed open the bedroom door and added fuel to the fire to instigate. The atmosphere was made more and more tense by her. "If you force me to send the baby away, we will get divorced." With that, I got up and was about to leave with the baby in my arms. Charlie was the baby I carried for 10 months, and we were already connected by blood. I couldn't bear to send him away, and I would never send him away. Seeing that my attitude was firm, Lillian immediately softened. She quickly grabbed me and flattered, "Tina, don't be excited. Benjamin was just discussing with you, wasn't he?" Benjamin also apologized to me, saying that he was impulsive and hadn't thought it through clearly. The next day, Lillian went back to the countryside. Without her stirring up trouble, we had a few peaceful days. Although Benjamin was not as completely open-minded towards the baby as before, it was still passable. He was as attentive to me as before again. When my parents came to our home and saw Benjamin busy here and there, they couldn't stop praising him. In order not to worry them, I didn't tell them what had happened some time ago. A few days later, Lillian came back again and brought Connor, Benjamin's eldest brother's son. "I've told the eldest son to let you raise Connor. You just need to treat him like your own son." Benjamin told me that he had already contacted his eldest brother to come and pick up the child and asked me not to be angry with his mother. Since the child rarely came to the city from the countryside, we might as well let him play for a few days before leaving. After dinner, Benjamin asked me to take Connor to buy his daily necessities. Connor stood in front of the toy store and clamored to buy toys. If he couldn't get them, he would roll on the ground and throw a tantrum. He was spoiled by Lillian. I was in a hurry to go home to breastfeed, so I had to meet his demands and bought him more than 10 toys. When we got home, Benjamin was sleeping on the couch and Lillian was mopping the floor in the kitchen. While changing my shoes, I asked Benjamin, "Where is Charlie?" He answered drowsily, "Sleeping in the bedroom." Somehow, a sense of uneasiness rose in my heart. I walked quickly into the bedroom. There were baby's bibs, bottles, clothes, and small quilts scattered on the bed, but I couldn't see the baby. "Benjamin. Where is the baby?" He yawned and came to the bedroom door. "Isn't he always sleeping on the bed?" I quickly climbed onto the bed, lifted the winter quilt for adults, and finally found Charlie in the corner against the wall. He lay motionless, his little mouth wide open, his chest not rising or falling, and his skin exposed outside his clothes had turned purple. "Charlie, Charlie." I patted the baby's little face in a panic, but there was no response. Benjamin woke up from his drowsiness instantly and hurried forward to check the baby's condition. "Get out! Get out!" I was both worried and angry. I picked up the baby and wanted to rush to the hospital. Benjamin held me back and kept calming my emotions. He behaved extremely worried like the baby's biological father and immediately dialed 120. After the emergency medical staff arrived, they regretfully said that the baby had died. The cause of death was suffocation. I subconsciously suspected that Benjamin and his mother had deliberately killed the baby. Benjamin guessed what I was thinking and took the initiative to explain. "Tina, why would I risk going to jail to kill a baby? We were classmates in graduate school. We dated for 2 years and got married for 5 years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Benjamin and I were classmates in graduate school. He courted me. During our relationship, he was gentle and considerate and treated me very well. My family and friends thought highly of him. I thought I had found true love, so I didn't mind his rural origin and his family's poorer condition compared to mine. I only received a bride price of 68,000 yuan for the wedding, and I also brought a fully paid new house of 150 square meters and a car as my dowry. After marriage, Benjamin's kindness to me didn't diminish. He still put me first in everything and was very family-oriented. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed with him after he was diagnosed with azoospermia. He had indeed been bothered by the fact that Charlie had no blood relationship with him recently, but he shouldn't be so bad as to directly kill the baby. Lillian also kept crying out her innocence. "I really don't like this baby, but if I really wanted to harm him, it would be better to sell him secretly than to kill him. Then I could make some money." Their words and their innocent-looking performance dispelled some of my suspicions. The accidental death of the baby was related to my leaving home at that time and Benjamin and Lillian's irresponsibility. I was trapped in a whirlpool of self-blame and pain. I really couldn't continue to live with Benjamin, so I proposed a divorce. He didn't agree and brought up the old matter again. "Since Charlie is gone, we can raise Connor. He will also take care of us in the future." No matter how much he and his mother persuaded me, I was firm in my attitude. Seeing that there was no hope of getting me back, Benjamin's eyes gradually became gloomy. He suddenly grabbed my wrist and threw me to the ground. My knee hit the corner of the table, and the pain made me break out in cold sweat. "Benjamin, are you crazy?" He bent over and grabbed my hair, his tone cold. "I'll ask you one last time. Are you really going to divorce me?" I had never seen him like this. He was like a cold-blooded abuser in a horror movie. So his gentle side was just an act. Or rather, he had two faces all along. Lillian's voice rang out beside us. "Binwa, if you get divorced, she will get half of the family property, and you will have no place to live. Just go all the way. Throw her downstairs and say she committed suicide by jumping because of depression or something." I was extremely shocked. I never expected that Lillian would dare to say such lawless words. So it seemed that they had deliberately killed Charlie too. A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't help shivering and trembling as I tried to take out my phone to call the police. Lillian hurriedly urged, "Throw her down quickly. Do you really want to wait for her to call the police?" Benjamin came to his senses, snatched my phone, and together with his mother, lifted me up and threw me out of the window. A huge sense of weightlessness engulfed me. The moment I hit the ground, the pain of being smashed to pieces hit me. Hell is empty, and the devils are on earth. I'm not reconciled. I'm not reconciled to being killed by them like this. Downstairs. Benjamin didn't even have time to put on his shoes. He stumbled and crawled to my side, crying with snot and tears all over his face. According to him, after the baby died, I got depressed and suddenly jumped off the building and committed suicide. He painfully banged his head on the ground, making his forehead red, and cried heartbreakingly, "You and the baby are both gone. How can I live alone?" The neighbors who gathered around felt very sorry for him and came forward to comfort him one after another, sighing that he was an affectionate and pitiful man. I wanted to expose his true face in front of everyone. But I was floating in the air, only able to watch him act, and could do nothing. My parents didn't believe that I committed suicide. Benjamin had already colluded with his mother on what to say long ago, and he even took out the paternity test between him and the baby to shift the blame. He said that I had affairs outside without his knowledge and that the baby was a bastard. My father couldn't bear the shock and had a cerebral hemorrhage on the spot. He died after the rescue was ineffective. My mother was in tears all day long, and her health deteriorated a great deal. She passed away in just over a year. I hate so much. I hate that I thought too well of them, not knowing that the person beside my pillow had already lost the bottom line of humanity. Reborn in this life, I will expose Benjamin's false mask and make him and his mother pay the due price. Walking out of the consulting room, Benjamin saw that I was unusually silent and took the initiative to ask me, "Tina, do you despise me?" I didn't answer. He lowered his eyes, looking sad. "I'm infertile. I'm a useless man. Acting, keep on acting. This damned man is always good at using women's sympathy to control them." Benjamin was gentle enough when his own interests were not damaged. Once he had to suffer losses, his true colors would be revealed. This was also the nature of most Phoenix men. I held back the hatred in my heart and comforted him a little. Just reborn, I needed to sort out my thoughts and think carefully about how to deal with Benjamin and his mother. Just as I was thinking, Lillian came to me on her own initiative. In the first 2 years after Benjamin and I got married, she was nice to me, and everyone said she was a reasonable mother-in-law. Since my belly had been showing no signs of pregnancy, she had been looking down on me overtly and covertly. Lillian put big and small plastic bags on the table, and her disdainful eyes fell on my flat belly, and she started to talk about my not being pregnant again. "It's really hard on my son to marry a hen that can't lay eggs. And it also makes me, an old woman, run around everywhere to find folk remedies for you." Benjamin looked embarrassed and asked his mother to stop. Lillian glared at him and raised her voice, "Why can't I say it? In the past, no man would want a woman like this. In my opinion, you'd better go out and find another woman." The more she talked, the more excited she became, and Benjamin couldn't stop her at all. I sneered and suddenly threw Benjamin's examination report onto her face. "Look carefully. Who is the one that can't lay eggs?" In my last life, for the sake of Benjamin's face, I never told the truth. Now I won't cover for him anymore. Lillian stared in disbelief at the diagnosis results of male infertility, azoospermia, and all kinds of parameters being 0 on the test report, and her face became more and more ugly. What could be more painful for a mother than destroying the perfect image of her son in her heart? Even Lillian herself didn't notice that her hand holding the report was shaking constantly. Suddenly, she threw the report on the ground and muttered self-deceptively, "I don't understand these damned things. It must be a misdiagnosis by the hospital. How could Benjamin be sick?" "Huh," I laughed and threw the examination reports from several other hospitals in my bag in front of Lillian all at once. "Are these hospitals also misdiagnosing?" After Benjamin was first diagnosed with azoospermia, we were afraid of misdiagnosis by the hospital, so we went to several authoritative hospitals for examinations one after another. The diagnosis results showed that he was completely azoospermic, and even the doctors said there was no need to check further. Lillian's expression gradually fell apart as if her beliefs had collapsed. Her proud youngest son, the first postgraduate in the village, actually had azoospermia. How could he carry on the excellent family line of the Shin family? Lillian looked at Benjamin, not knowing whether she was comforting him or herself. It's okay. Mom will find folk remedies for you. There are many rural folk methods. Mom will surely be able to cure you." Benjamin blamed me for telling his mother about his azoospermia. He grabbed my wrist and forcibly dragged me into the bedroom. He asked angrily, "Why did you tell my mother these things?" My disobedience made the cracks in his gentle mask appear earlier. I shook off Benjamin's hand forcefully and looked straight at him. "Benjamin, are you a man? Your mother misunderstood that I was infertile and sneered at me in a strange way, but you didn't say a word to help me. Now I just told the truth, but you blame me." My expression became more and more disappointed. "I feel that I have never really known you. Do you really love me? If you love me, how could you watch me be wronged? How could you selfishly lose your temper at me?" I pretended to squeeze out 2 teardrops. Wasn't it moral blackmail? Who couldn't do it? Sure enough, the anger in Benjamin's eyes was replaced by guilt. He apologized to me at a loss and kept assuring me that he really loved me. I took the opportunity to ask to sleep in a separate room, and Benjamin had to agree. Immediately after that, I told my parents about Benjamin's infertility. In my last life, I was so stupid that they had the chance to shift the blame after my death. This time, I will make it known to everyone and make Benjamin lose face completely. My parents knew that I liked children and had a plan to have children, so they advised me to divorce Benjamin. I will get divorced, but not right now. Just getting divorced from him like this and letting his family off would be too easy on them, mother and son. Now that Benjamin has a physical defect, his mother is extremely flattering to me for fear that I will get divorced. She takes the initiative to do the housework, even washes my socks by hand, and makes 3 meals very sumptuously according to my preferences. She picked up a chicken leg and wanted to put it in my bowl. I moved my bowl away without a trace and said in a strange tone, "Aren't you saying that I'm a hen that can't lay eggs? How can I eat my own kind?" Lillian's hand holding the chicken leg froze, and she smiled sheepishly, with the crow's feet at the corners of her eyes squeezed together. "Tina, it was Mom's fault before." Suddenly, she slapped herself twice with her other hand. "I'm clumsy-tongued and don't know how to speak. You are a good child. Don't be as narrow-minded as Mom." The chicken leg was put back on the plate, and no one touched it until the meal was over. Benjamin probed my attitude many times, for fear that I would divorce him. I indicated that I could stay with him, but I wanted a child. He was overjoyed and offered to have a baby by sperm donation. I looked worried. "The child born in this way has no blood relationship with you. Will you be unkind to the child?" Benjamin promised to treat the child as his own. If I didn't have the memories of my last life, I would surely be deceived by his sincere appearance at this moment. "You'd better discuss it with your mother. It concerns 2 families. We can't make a decision behind her back. Lillian attaches great importance to blood relations and will never agree to have a baby by sperm donation." Sure enough, she said that a child born by sperm donation was a bastard and proposed that Benjamin raise his eldest brother's son. I stroked my flat belly, and Charlie's cute little face emerged in front of me. "Baby, wait a little longer. Mom will surely avenge you. If we adopt Shin Kong, will his father and mother agree?" I pretended to be hesitant. Lillian had a mean look on her face. How dare he not agree? Shin's father died early, and Lillian brought up her 2 sons alone. The eldest son dropped out of school to support Benjamin's study. When he was working on the construction site, he unfortunately fell and injured his leg, leaving him disabled. He could only do farm work and take care of children at home. He was honest and somewhat blindly filial, and was always controlled by Lillian. Benjamin had excellent academic performance since childhood and was the only postgraduate in the village, which earned Lillian a great deal of face. She always favored Benjamin in every way. In my last life, I saw my sister-in-law's WeChat moments and learned that Lillian had threatened her eldest son with death while she was working outside and then took Shin Kong away. No mother would be willing to give her son to others. After the eldest sister-in-law knew about it, she had been clamoring for a divorce. Since Benjamin wanted so much to raise Shin Kong in this life, of course I would help him get his wish. I found my sister-in-law privately and told her that Lillian wanted her to let Shin Kong be adopted by Benjamin. She was on full alert and cursed Lillian continuously, calling her an old and shameless venomous woman. I will never agree to let Kong Kong be adopted by you. No, you have to agree. My sister-in-law looked at me warily, ready to scold me as well. A smile spread across my lips, and I said slowly, "Isn't it good that someone is willing to spend money to raise your child and let the child receive high-quality education in the city?" My sister-in-law looked puzzled. After thinking for a while, she understood what I meant. She still had concerns. If the child doesn't live with me, what if he becomes estranged from me in the future? Why don't you move here with the child? Someone will be responsible for the expenses of your whole family. How wonderful. My smile grew wider. Also, sign the child up for all kinds of tutorial classes and interest classes. Everything that city children have, our Kong Kong should also have. As for whether the child will support you or Benjamin in the future, whether he will be closer to you or him, it all depends on how you, as a mother, educate him, right? Rather than let Benjamin die happily, it is better to let him live in pain. I want to watch the child he spends money to raise suck his blood little by little like a leech. My sister-in-law suddenly saw the light and also laughed. She knew about Benjamin's azoospermia diagnosis, and of course she could guess my purpose for doing this. Are you planning to divorce Benjamin? I smiled faintly without answering. She showed an approving expression. Indeed, you should get divorced. You can completely find a normal man and give your child a normal family. I rented an apartment and let my parents move in first. Before bringing up the divorce with Benjamin, I must make every preparation to protect myself and my family. My parents don't know Benjamin's dark side. Even though they don't understand why I'm so cautious, they still unconditionally support all the decisions I make. Tina, no matter what you encounter, you must tell your parents. Don't keep it to yourself. Your parents will always be your support. Looking at their worried expressions at their old age, my eyes couldn't help but get moist. I told my parents about my plan. Benjamin will most likely not agree to the divorce. We should be prepared for a long, drawn-out battle and also be on guard against Benjamin's desperate actions. To ensure personal safety, I formally proposed divorce to Benjamin over the phone. On the other end, Benjamin was obviously unprepared. After a moment of silence, he pretended to be relaxed and said, "Tina, don't make this kind of joke with me." "I'm not joking." Benjamin, set a time. My lawyer will meet with you to discuss in detail. Starting from today, I will no longer meet Benjamin alone. He is a madman and will do anything for his own interests. Why do you want to divorce me? We clearly love each other very much, don't we? Benjamin was still a bit confused. Because you are infertile, but I want a child. After being diagnosed with azoospermia, although he pretended to be nonchalant, in fact, he cared a great deal. My straightforward answer was undoubtedly rubbing salt into his wound. Sure enough, he was choked and it took him a while to recover. We have a child, Shin Kong. He has nothing to do with me. Benjamin compromised and said, then let's have a baby by sperm donation and have a child of our own. I couldn't help but sneer. Why do you think I would let my child have a non-biological father? Benjamin couldn't hold it any longer, and his tone gradually became gloomy. Tina, do you really have to be so ruthless? Ruthless? I think I'm very magnanimous. I haven't told my classmates, friends, and colleagues about his azoospermia yet, and I haven't made my family broken and dead like he did to me in my last life. Benjamin was so angry that he hung up the phone directly. Divorcing a Phoenix man is not an easy thing. In the surveillance footage, Benjamin's mother was furious and cursed me with all kinds of vicious and vulgar words. Just hold on and see what she can do. There's no way she can get a divorce. Fortunately, I had installed surveillance cameras in the house in advance and could observe the movements of their mother and son in real time. I called Benjamin and threatened him that if he didn't agree to the divorce, I would tell his friends and colleagues about his azoospermia. To deal with a scoundrel, one has to use an even more scoundrel-like method. Benjamin was completely enraged. "Tina, don't go too far. If you push me too hard, I'll do anything." Lillian snatched the phone. I thought she was going to curse me, but unexpectedly, she wanted to persuade me with reason and emotion. "Tina, after all, you and Benjamin have been in a relationship for 7 years. Are you really willing to give it up? Over the years, his kindness to you has been obvious. You're 30 years old. If you divorce Benjamin, no man will want you." I snorted coldly. "Your son is infertile. Will any woman want him?" Seeing that I was unyielding, Lillian finally couldn't hold back and cursed at me. I turned a deaf ear and emphasized to Benjamin, "If I don't get a reply before 10 o'clock this evening, I will post your azoospermia on my WeChat moments." After that, I hung up the phone. Benjamin cared a great deal about his reputation. In the surveillance footage, he paced restlessly in the living room and looked at Lillian as if asking for help. "Let her say it if she wants. If others know, will you lose a piece of flesh? Anyway, you can't get divorced. Once divorced, she will take half of the house. Millions. How long do you have to work to earn so much money?" Lillian was wrong. The house was pre-marital property, and they couldn't get a penny of it. Lillian comforted Benjamin, "Don't worry, Mom won't let Tina, that little bitch, have an easy time." Lillian went to my parents' house to make a scene, but unexpectedly, no one was there. The house was being listed for sale. She found my company and, with a look of a victim, accused me of being a bad woman in front of all my colleagues. Her son had azoospermia, but instead of staying with him through thick and thin, I wanted a divorce. 7 years together. Even if you raise a dog, there will be feelings. Tina is completely a cold-blooded animal. How can your company hire all kinds of people? A person like her, who has no sense of responsibility and can only share wealth but not hardships, must be incompetent at work. She wanted to ruin my reputation and make the company fire me. Sister Wang, the boss, came out of her office. Lillian immediately rushed over, spitting as she talked. "Are you Tina's boss?" She repeated what she had just said and emphasized, "Tina is a cold-hearted woman, worse than a dog, and will only bring shame to your company." After she finished, Sister Wang asked, "So? What do you want me to do?" Thinking that Sister Wang was convinced by her, Lillian looked at me smugly. "Fire her. Really good, you also think it's a good idea, right? Thanks to me for helping you see the true face of this slut Tina." Before Sister Wang could finish her words, Lillian quickly interrupted. Sister Wang frowned and disgustedly distanced herself from Lillian, finishing the unfinished words, "Really so shameless." Lillian was stunned. Sister Wang sneered, "Didn't you previously complain that Tina couldn't get pregnant and urged your precious son to divorce her? Now that your son is infertile and Tina wants a divorce, you don't agree instead?" Sister Wang was only 5 years older than me. Most of the people in our office were women, all partners who had started the business with her. At work, we were superiors and subordinates. Privately, we were friends who could talk about everything. She and most of the colleagues in the office knew that I had never been pregnant and that Lillian had urged Benjamin to divorce me. Lillian was anxious. "How can women be the same as men? What's the difference?" Of course there is a difference. How can women be compared with men? The double standards for men and women in society have always restricted women. Sister Wang's husband had an affair during her pregnancy. The man's parents said that her husband had only made a small mistake that every man would make and asked her, as a woman, to be more tolerant. She was not bound by moral kidnapping, and she resolutely aborted the child and divorced. She was a model of an independent woman. The female colleagues in the office refuted Lillian one after another. Auntie, women indeed can't be compared with men. My aunt's husband was infertile. She didn't divorce and chose to have a baby by sperm donation. After the baby was born, her husband, relying on his infertility, fooled around outside, got sick, and even infected my aunt. Look, in terms of fooling around, women are indeed not as good as men. Your son and daughter-in-law are talking about divorce, but your son hides himself nicely and lets you, an old woman, come out to make trouble for him. Your son, a grown man, is indeed not as responsible as you, an old woman. Lillian was no match for more than 10 mouths. She cursed hatefully. Birds of a feather flocked together. You are all the same as Tina, not good women. Let's see which man will dare to want you in the future. A male colleague by the window slapped the table, stood up suddenly, and put his arm around the shoulder of the female colleague who had just spoken. She is my wife. Lillian shuddered in fright, felt embarrassed, and ran away in a huff. This old woman is really disgusting. Tina, don't worry. Go ahead and get divorced. We support you. Sister Wang patted my back, and many colleagues came over to show their concern for me. Looking at their kind eyes, I was extremely touched. The attempt at an amicable divorce failed, so I filed a lawsuit in court. The court summons had already been delivered to Benjamin. Even the stickiest chewing gum can be scraped off completely one day. At most, it will take half a year for me to divorce him successfully. At this time, Benjamin actually took the initiative to call me, saying that he agreed to the divorce and asked me to go home to sign the divorce agreement. I could see clearly what he was up to. When I entered the door with a large group of people including my parents, lawyer, relatives, friends, and colleagues, Benjamin and his mother were stunned. Benjamin's face was darker than the bottom of a pot. Tina, what are you bringing so many people here for? What for? He still had the nerve to ask me? The day before yesterday, through the surveillance, I saw Benjamin and his mother discussing about tricking me back on the pretext of negotiating a divorce, drugging me unconscious, and then forging an accidental fire to burn me alive in the room. Although the house would be destroyed, but with me dead and the two of us still married, he could still inherit my parents' property. Unexpectedly, I brought a large group of people back, which completely foiled his plan. Of course he was very angry. He dragged his feet and was reluctant to sign the divorce agreement. Our mutual friend, Justin, advised him, "Brother Benjamin, are you a man? If you want a divorce, just be straightforward." Another male colleague, Ethan, also said, "You don't have the ability to have children anymore. Why are you still clinging to Tina? Be a man and be decent. Don't do anything degrading." Others echoed one after another, forcing Benjamin into a corner with their words. He had always been a refined and decent person in front of his friends and colleagues. He had no choice but to sign in front of everyone. However, I had a faint feeling of uneasiness in my heart. One morning, I opened WeChat. Countless unread messages popped up. "Benjamin has exposed you on the internet. Have a look quickly." I clicked on the news link and found that Benjamin had made a 67-page PPT to accuse me. In his view, I was a heartless woman. He had been very caring towards me, but I had an affair during the marriage. The picture attached was a photo of me meeting with my lawyer alone. After he was diagnosed with azoospermia, I couldn't wait to ask for a divorce and also tricked him out of all the cars and houses. Benjamin portrayed himself as an honest man who had been cheated out of all his property by a woman. There were a large number of my photos in the PPT, many of which were more private photos taken secretly. Although they were mosaicked, my appearance could still be pieced together relatively completely. The onlookers forwarded it one after another. The popularity of the 67-page PPT kept rising and even made it into the top 10 hot searches on several platforms. Some people claiming to be insiders jumped out and asserted that I had been pregnant during the marriage, had affairs with different men, and had had multiple abortions. Others said that I was a professional gold digger and had attended a professional sugar daddy hunting training class, and after sucking a man dry, I would go for the next man. The rumors became more and more outrageous. Netizens sympathized with Benjamin's situation and spontaneously condemned me on his behalf. My phone number, ID card, educational experience, and my parents' phone numbers were all exposed. The self-proclaimed justice-seeking netizens called and sent text messages to curse me, and some even occupied the comment section of my university, demanding that they revoke my degree. My social media accounts were dug out, and the comment sections and private messages were filled with filthy remarks. The online mob was like a swarm of locusts passing through. In 30 years, I had never felt so much malice. In this situation, even if the person involved came forward to clarify, it would not make much of a splash. People, in order to satisfy their curiosity, don't care about the truth. They only want to see what they want to see. At this time, Sister Wong found me. After understanding the whole story, she offered to let me use the company's account to clarify, saying that it would have a greater influence. We are an e-commerce company, and the official account has more than 600,000 followers. I was extremely grateful and used the company's account to post a clarification video. In the video, I showed the payment receipts for my parents buying me a car and a house, as well as the records of my parents making multiple transfers to Benjamin when he proposed to invest. It was confirmed that Benjamin was a Phoenix man who bit the hand that fed him. Then I released the video recorded by the surveillance camera of Benjamin and his mother discussing drugging and burning me to death. I have already called the police. Whether in real life or on the internet, every perpetrator should pay the price for their actions. I filed lawsuits against the most vocal rumor mongers and abusers on the internet. Benjamin and Lillian were detained by the public security organs. The public opinion on the internet made a huge reversal. Benjamin became a synonym for a scumbag. Don't be too Benjamin became a well-known annual hot meme. Many women praised me for being sober, wise, and strong. As a result, our company also became popular, and the number of fans skyrocketed by more than 5 million in just 1 week. Benjamin and Lillian had premeditated to kill me, but had not carried it out, so it did not constitute a crime. The two had spread rumors and slandered me and leaked my personal information, which were established facts. Lillian took the main responsibility and was sentenced to 1 year and 6 months in prison, and Benjamin, as an accomplice, was sentenced to 8 months in prison. I sold my house and bought a villa to live with my parents. One day, Benjamin's older brother's wife sent me a message. Benjamin has been released. He is unemployed and no company is willing to hire him, so he can only set up a roadside stall. I asked him to give money to support Hong Kong. He is afraid that no one will take care of him when he is old, so he transfers money to me every month. Obviously, Benjamin's retribution is not over yet. More than 10 years passed. I took my children to play in an ancient town on the outskirts of the city. They wanted to have grilled sausages, so we stopped in front of a grilled sausage stall. 2 grilled sausages, please. The stall owner looked up. The moment we saw each other, we were both very shocked. The person selling grilled sausages was actually Benjamin. He was thin, with dark skin, wearing an old flat-topped hat, and his face was full of vicissitudes, looking like an old man in his 60s. It was completely different from his once dapper and high-spirited appearance in a suit and tie. His eyes were full of emotions, and he said to me excitedly, "Tina, when I was in prison, I had a dream. I dreamed that you didn't leave me and had a baby through sperm donation for me. But I smothered the baby to death and pushed you downstairs. I regret it. I really regret it. I should have been with you properly. I could have had a happy family." Tears kept flowing from Benjamin's muddy eyes. He saw my 7-year-old half-blooded twins beside me, and a glimmer of hope lit up in his pupils. Are they the children you had through sperm donation? It must be very hard for you to raise 2 children alone. My mother died of a terminal illness a few years ago, and no one will come between us anymore. Let's get back together. The children also need a father. As he said this, he wanted to step forward and hold my daughter's hand. Suddenly, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man appeared, pushed Benjamin away, and warned him sternly, "Don't touch my daughter." Benjamin looked at me hesitantly and finally didn't say anything. The light in his eyes went out. After divorcing Benjamin, I took some time off and traveled around the world to relax. When I was sitting in a hot air balloon on the African savanna watching the animal migration, I met Niels from Denmark. He was 4 years younger than me and fell in love with me at first sight. He chased me all the way from Kenya to China. I was touched by him. After 2 years of dating, we got married and had a lovely pair of twins. We didn't get to have the grilled sausages. The children were attracted by the balloons in an old man's hand who was passing by. Niels and I held the children's hands and chased after the old man and bought 2 balloons. There were sounds of scolding and fighting coming from behind. A yellow-haired boy pushed Benjamin to the ground and kicked him several times. A passer-by tried to stop the fight, and the yellow-haired boy cursed, "I'm beating my own father." "It's none of your business." He kicked Benjamin again. "You old fool, give me money. I need to buy a house for my marriage with Lingling. Give me all your savings." Benjamin moaned continuously and begged for mercy. "I have no money. I really have no money." "If you have no money, sell your blood and organs. It's your fault for being my father." Tina. Someone tapped me gently on the shoulder. Benjamin's sister-in-law was standing behind me, with joy in her eyes. Judging from her clothes, she should be living a good life now. "I'm relieved to see that you are still so young and beautiful. Thanks to your idea, my family now has much less pressure. Every time I think of Benjamin and his mother plotting to harm you, I let Kong Kong beat Benjamin up to vent your anger." Seeing her hatred for evil, I sincerely said thank you to her. "For what?" "It's what I should do." She waved her hand and smiled heartily. Not long after that, Benjamin had a fall while setting up his stall. He had a fractured hip and intracranial hemorrhage, and his condition was very critical. The hospital called his son, but no one answered. The head nurse was my best friend, Vanessa. When he was on the verge of death, Benjamin asked Vanessa, "If I hadn't been so bad to her in the beginning, would it not have been?" Vanessa rolled her eyes and interrupted, "There is no if." "Yes, there is no if," Benjamin murmured to himself. With endless regret, he ended his short life in pain.